Hello friends, today we will study about George Herbert Mead and his work on self and identity that is mentioned in UPSC syllabus. So let us start now. George Herbert Mead is generally regarded as the father of symbolic interactionism. In Mead's view, human thought, experience and conduct are essentially social. A symbol doesn't simply stand for an object or event. It defines it in a particular way and indicates a response to it. Thus, the symbol chair not only represents a class of objects and defines them as similar, it also indicates a line of action. That is the action of sitting. So symbols impose particular meaning on an object and events. That is the event. Symbols provide the means through which humans can interact meaningfully with their natural and social environment. They are human-made and refer not to intrinsic nature of objects and events but to way in which people perceive them. Without symbols, the world would be no human interaction and no human society. So without symbols, there would be no human interaction and no human society. Symbolic interaction is necessary since humans have no instinct to direct their behavior. Humans are not genetically programmed to react automatically to particular stimuli. In order to survive, they must therefore construct and live within the world of meaning. Via symbols, meaning is imposed on the world of nature and human interaction with the world is thereby made possible. Social life can only proceed if members of the society largely share the meanings of the symbol. If this were not the case, meaningful communication would be impossible. However, common symbols provide only the means by which human interaction can be accomplished. In order to interaction to proceed, each person involved must interpret the meanings and intents of others. This is accomplished by means of a process that we term role taking. Now, the process of role taking involves one person taking on the role of another by imaginatively placing himself in the position of another with whom he is interacting. For example, if a person observes another smiling, crying, waving a hand or shaking a fist, he will put himself in person's position in order to interpret the intention and meaning. Based on these interpretations, he would make his response to the action of other and vice versa. Thus, human interaction can be seen as continuous process of interpretations with each taking the role of other. Now, let us see the term self that is mentioned in UPSC syllabus. Mead argued that through the process of role taking, individuals develop a concept of self. By placing himself or herself in position of other, he or she is able to look back upon himself or herself. Mead claimed that the idea of self can only develop if the individual can get outside himself experientially in such a way as to become an object to himself. To do this, he must observe himself from the standpoint of others. Therefore, the origin and development of the concept of self lie in the ability to take the role of another. Mead distinguish two aspects of the self, me and I. The me is defined for a specific role. For example, if I see myself as a good teacher, it reflects only one specific aspect of my personality. The I is our opinion of ourselves as a whole. The I, which can be called as our self-concept, is built up from the reactions of others to us and the way we interpret those reactions. It can exercise considerable influence over our behavior. For example, if I see myself as cowardly on the basis of self-concept I have built up, I am unlikely to act bravely in dangerous situations. Now, the notion of self is not inborn, it is learned during childhood. Mead saw two main stages in its development. The first, known as the play stage, it involves children playing roles that are not their own. For example, children may play at being a parent, a doctor, or a nurse. In doing so, they become aware that there is a difference between themselves and the role they are playing. That the idea of self is developed as the child takes the role of make-believe other. The second stage in the development of self is known as the game stage. In playing a game, children come to see themselves from the perspective of the various participants. In order to play a game such as football or cricket, children must become aware of their relationship to the other players. They must place themselves in roles of others in order to appreciate their own particular role in the game. In doing so, they see themselves in terms of collective viewpoints of other players. In Mead's terminology, they see themselves from generalized other. So this is all about generalized other, and it is make-believe other. That the idea of self is developed as child takes the role of make-believe other. In Mead's view, the development of a consciousness of the self is an essential part of the process of becoming a human being. It provides the basis of thought and action and foundation of human society. Without an awareness of the self, the individuals could not direct action or response to the actions of others. Only by acquiring a concept of self can the individual take the role of self. In this way, thought is possible. Since Mead's view, the process of thinking is simply an inner conversation. Thus, unless individuals are aware of the self, they will be unable to converse with themselves and thought will be impossible. By becoming self-conscious, people can direct their own action by thought and deliberation. They can set goals for themselves, plan future action, and consider the consequences of alternative course of action. With an awareness of the self, individuals are able to see themselves as others see them. When they take the role of others, they observe themselves from that standpoint and become aware of the views of themselves that others hold. This provides the basis of cooperative action in society. Individuals will become aware of what is expected of them and will tend to modify their actions accordingly. They will be conscious of general attitude of community and judge and evaluate themselves in terms of generalized others. From this perspective, thought becomes an inner conversation going on between this generalized other and the individual. In this way, conduct is regulated in terms of expectations and attitudes of others. Mead's view of symbolic interactions sees humans as both actively creating the social environment and being shaped by it. Individuals initiate and direct their own action while at the same time being influenced by the attitude and expectations of others in the form of generalized other. The individual and the society are regarded as inseparable. Individual can only become a human being in social context. In this context, individuals develop a sense of self, which is a prerequisite for thought. They learn to take the roles of others, which is essential both for the development of self and for cooperative action. Without communication in terms of symbols whose meanings are shared, these processes would not be possible. Humanity, therefore, lives in the world of symbols that give meanings and significance to life and provide the basis for human interaction. Now, let us see critical evaluation. Critics have compared Mead's symbolic interactionism as interaction in vacuum. Mead has tended to focus on a small-scale face-to-face interaction with little concern for its historical and social settings. He has concentrated on particular situation with little reference to the historical event or wider social framework. It fails to explain adequately how standardized normative behavior comes about and why members of the society are motivated to act in terms of social norms. Critics have also argued that meanings and symbols are not spontaneously created in interacting situation. Instead, they are systematically generated by social structure. Marxists have argued that meanings that operate in the face-to-face interactions are largely the product of class relationship. Conclusion: despite the limitations discussed above, symbolic interactionism has made an important contribution to sociology. It has shown the usefulness of microsociology in understanding the everyday life, particularly the dynamics of smaller groups. It has contributed in combining structural and interpretative social action perspective. For example, Anthony Giddens' theory of structuration is significantly influenced by symbolic interactionism. So it's all about Mead's work on self and identity. Thank you very much.